Hello everyone, this is RaySpace and welcome back to Realism Overhaul Sandbox in Kerbal Space Program 1.12. We have here a very suspicious sort of starship. It has a rather large amount of delta V, but it has a burn time of a year and 105 days, and yes, that means that I've put ion engines on it. So previously I had created a stage for Starship, a stage that goes inside its cargo bay that used ion engines to see what we could do with that. But now I'm switching it up. I've put ion engines on Starship itself. So we have 3 sets. They're 2.27 tons apiece. However, we can't really use the full thrust of them. I just put them like that because of symmetry. But in order to actually make full use of them, we would need a nuclear reactor. Instead, I've got really big solar panels on top. These are stretched, tweak scaled as large as I could make them, but they do not provide enough. They provide enough for basically one of these, maybe 1 1/3, but not more than that. So we're a little bit limited. If I could use all of the space on top, then that would have been better, but we could probably fit a small solar panel there, but I can't tweak scale this anymore. I'd have to rewrite the configurations to do that, and I'm not going to do that just yet. So we have here quite a lot of delta V, but this isn't how we're going to do things. This isn't right now. The ion engines are using the oxygen. So these are oxygen ion units. They're pulsed inductive thrusters, so that they're whatever electrodes or whatever do not get harmed by the oxygen. Everything will be fine. So pulsed inductive thrusters are the way to go for this sort of thing, but that means they are lower thrust than normal ion thrusters, and they don't get as much ISP, 2268s on the low end for ion, but we get to just use the oxygen, the spare oxygen that's inside. And right now I haven't even fueled it up all the way. We could get up to 50,000, but that's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is we're going to use a lot of methane and oxygen to get to orbit, and then we're going to have some methane and oxygen left because I have not put in a very heavy payload. And if we dump the methane, you can see even with 10% of the oxygen, we get 13,000. Now, that's taking too darn long. So this is only good for cargo, because otherwise it's going to be passing through the radiation belts and everything. So what we have inside is 45 tons of food, water, and oxygen. That's it. So the goal is to get that over to the moon. But we get to do that without having a whole bunch of launches, which in the previous video with Star Stage 4, that was the goal. The goal was to not have a whole bunch of launches, and that continues to be my goal. And I'm going to continue messing with Starship in order to make this happen, make this useful for me, because I'm not going to do 10 launches to refuel it, okay? So if I'm going to make it useful, I'm going to have, I guess, maybe ion engines is the way to go. And NASA Space Launch System has gone through this with me before too. I've messed with SLS quite a lot. I did a whole video just on the various ways that I have messed with SLS, and now it's Starship's turn to get that treatment. And if they don't take any of my advice, well, they'll just have to see what happens then, won't they? Alright, so let's launch this sucker and see what happens. The delta V for the rocket isn't right because it's got a really heavy launch tower attached to it right now, so that's the problem. I think it's safer just to launch off the stock launch pad at Cape Canaveral. Alright, I'm just gonna let Pekka's KOS script handle the launch. I don't know how well the Super Heavy is going to do because it's normally expecting to come back to Boca Chica and not to Cape Canaveral, but we're not interested in that right now. We are interested in whether the Starship actually gets to orbit with anything for the ion engines to use at all. I mean, of course I haven't put the maximum potential payload of this in, but maybe I put too much payload for there to be a whole lot of oxygen left for the ion engines to use. And we do still need the methane as well, but probably we'll dump some of it. We need the methane for the RCS thrusters, so we still need both methane and oxygen for RCS, and then we have whatever we can use for the ions. Alright. Off it goes. Seems a bit slow. We didn't lose any engines, did we? Didn't seem so. Well, anyway, off it goes. The clock is a little bit slow. Maybe the ions cause problems. Alright, we have staging. So yeah, we've got more mass in terms of the ion engines there, as the super heavy attempts to boost back, but who knows where it's gonna go. And then more mass in terms of the solar panels, so it's rough. Anyway, I'm not gonna follow that. We continue with this. We should get to orbit with some, but how much? Alright, we are making orbit, and with the full Methalox deal, it looks like we'll actually end up with 1,000 meters per second. Now, this is a fully capable Starship, you know, 100 tons to orbit kind of capable. So, SpaceX has a bit of work to do before they get to this particular level, but they're saying that they can. Starship version 3, which used to be Starship version 2, I mean. Of course, there's the stretch version, which we don't talk about. Anyway, that's version 4 now, as I understand it. Okay, so yeah. We are pretty well off there, but not enough to get to the moon or anything. But, what if we turned off these engines and turned on the ion engines? $6,355. Now that's not enough for Starship to go to the moon and come back. But it's, and we are gonna have to cycle out. It does say 13 years burn time right now, but hopefully it's gonna change once we get some power flow. Well, it's not changing nearly enough. Let's see. It's still saying 13 years. That's probably not good. Okay, no more of that. Let's try and hold prograde. We do have to cycle out as well. I think we might want a nuclear reactor. This is generating 64 kilowatts in its interstellar solar generator to match with the interstellar things on here. Interstellar electric engine. But to be honest, even outside of time warp, it's not really changing our orbit right now. Normally, even with ion engines, I expect it to do something. Tell you what, let me put on the other ones that I used for the other demonstration with the Star Stage 4. These were oxygen specific, but I think the Star Stage 4 ones might be more reliable. I don't know. Let me try them out. I'm not quite believing this. I don't believe in the 13 years. Alright. Alright, shutdown. And let's switch engines. I should have action grouped that, but... Don't worry, a 12-meter Starship will happen, but I want to make a separate model of that. And I'm going to be going on vacation to London, so it's got to be a bit. It's going to take me some time. Alright, it's still saying 13 years, but we don't have the solar panels out. Alright, fine. We're probably... We're gonna need more power. I'm gonna just note the numbers here, and we're going to cheat it into orbit the next time. But I'm going to put a reactor on. So 36600, let's say, and then 51500. I'll give it a little bit of margin there. All right. Maybe it'll still be 13 years, but if a reactor doesn't work, then nothing's going to work, let's face it. Doesn't super duper matter where I put the reactor. I'm just gonna plop it in the cargo bay right on top of the food. Don't do that in real life. It's gonna be a very small reactor, as small as I can make it. Really not very heavy at all. But we will need radiators. So, well, we took away the solar panels. We probably don't need much by way of radiators, and we'll just use the standard radiators. Well, we don't want them... Oh, I forgot that the cargo bay opens like that. That would be... But we can limit that. Hopefully. Let's just put it right there, and is that okay? That's okay enough for now. Let's not have it automated. Okay, but I don't want to launch it all again. And let me set the propellant to the right amounts for after orbit. Right, so let me get the RCS on. So we have 6,200 right now, and it's 5 days. So that's not too bad. We're in line with the moon. Let's try and get over to the moon. Mostly in line, 1 degree off. But first we'll have to cycle out. Now, it's probably not a good idea to keep the methane. I don't know how much we can gain by dumping some of it, but we're gonna try. Not much. We gotta get back down to 6,600, but I don't think we're gonna get too much more. And we need some for the RCS. But we're definitely not coming back unless this gets refueled some. So, ion engines, will they work in time warp and everything? They are at least working. Ah, having a nuclear reactor is good. Okay, it is working during time warp. Now this is just the KSP Interstellar plugin, not Pekka's, because these are configured with the KSP Interstellar electrical engines module. Okay, it's getting higher and higher. Oh, this is getting a little bit stretchy. Okay. So 10 days. So 4 days up to this level. That's not too bad. And then we get there in 10 days after that. So 2 weeks. If I can do this burn in time. But that's 20 hours. I could probably start a little bit ahead here. I believe that 14 hours there, so I'll just go with the start burn that's listed here. But I'll just point prograde. Okay. Here we go. Okay, but the amount we have left to capture with is not great. That's pretty low periapsis, 350. But we're pretty close to the moon's orbit as it is, so 350 should be doable. Indeed, in fact, 51 is good enough to actually capture. So, let's go over there and do it. Finally. But again, it would waste the Starship unless you're going to refuel it. If you refuel it, it'll definitely have enough to come back. And then if it can even use its ion engine to get to a low orbit before trying to re-enter. But it looks like solar panels, it'll be tough to fit enough solar panels to really power these. You're probably looking at a reactor. Something that can supply 300 kilowatts. Though honestly, I think the solar panels should have been able to do better than what they seem to be doing, the years-long thing. But there must have been some math error there going on. Remember, don't follow the node, otherwise you'll end up crashing. Okay, we do have a capture. Now, we deviated from where I wanted to be. Maybe this can become like part of a space station. Maybe we can turn it into a wet workshop or something. That is something that used to carry propellant that's now turned into a pressurized module for people. That's not very easy to do though. Okay, well that's good enough. That's good enough. And we get a nice view of Starship in orbit around the moon. And with that, I'll say thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do press like. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below. And I'll see you next time.